and trans individuals. I will pour after the calling of each name, and you, the audience, will say the words, Ashe. And if there are persons in your life, queer, trans, or otherwise, that you would like to lift their names in this space, to welcome them into this space as we open our Crown Forum. I'll begin. Roderick Ferguson. Vincent Woodward. Bayard Taylor Rustin. Polly Murray. Brazil Johnson. Barbara Jordan. George Washington Carver. Exis Hemphill. James Baldwin. Bell Hooks. Rudolph P. Byrd. Joseph Bean. Marsha P. Johnson. Regina Allen. Are there names that you would like to lift in this space? If so, yell their names out. Ashe. Ashe. Are there other names? Ashe. 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 Oh. Now, this is Crown Forum, and so we will not talk during Crown Forum. It is very disrespectful. So we will give our undivided attention. Welcome to the Bayard Rustin Crown Forum. Now we will have, is Jessica here? Come. Following Jessica, we will have the statement of occasion by George Anthony Pratt, followed by a video clip of the voice of Bayard Rustin.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing today? I go to Clark, and I'm just really special to be here. I left my convocation to come to y'all Crown Forum, and it's good to be in the house with my Morehouse brothers today. Thank you. We all work together to make this legacy, and the poem that I'm sharing with you today is a poem that I shared yesterday at the Black Queer Expose, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you. If you know this nursery rhyme, please join in. Jessica and D, sitting in a tree, Kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes a baby in a baby carriage. Except the D was for Deja. And at my youth, those quick kisses we shared, we vowed to never let it leave the grounds of the playground, because two girls kissing, falling in love, getting married, and having a baby was not a reality back then, but an agenda to poison our youth and to let the devil in. And I knew when I went to church on Sunday, I would have to repent for my sin, baptizing those thoughts and feelings of her, placing them in the deepest parts of my mind, because it was all about presentation. It's just the way of creation, as the preacher reminds us before he closes his sermon. And discernment was the first seed that sprouted in me. And what blossomed curiosity felt like heaven, but it was implied that these same moments would send me to hell, and that what I felt didn't align with everyone else's version of myself. And so I made a choice to make the newfound pieces of me a sacrifice so that my sins wouldn't condemn me of daddy's love. My confusion didn't make me stand out. My unpleasant thoughts wouldn't bring shame upon my family and make God disappointed. I took the gay out so no one else would have to, because at 7, I just wanted to be a child, not an abomination. But when I peeked into preteens, the second seed that was sprouting to me would be temptation and maundering in middle school. Started conversation and my body began to speak to me. All those pieces I sacrificed all came rushing back. Puberty about pondering possibilities and fighting my flesh was my weakness. Hiding what I thought were the ugliest parts of myself became my little secret, and I shared it with girls like Deja. Our kisses went from trees to bathroom stalls, and we kept them confidential and classified because we knew what happened if we were ever caught in that action. We would be disciplined, and our parents would have our asses. And I never understood what fortified that reaction, but I did understand threats. And my father promised to slap me if he ever caught me in the act. And I didn't second guess his judgment as I witnessed my friends being punished for their sexual preference and promiscuity, how their parents said it was unladylike to be that way, told me stories about how hands were laid on them and they were preyed on and beaten until the gay went away. And in that moment, I knew our choices really brought shame, and sexuality really meant survival. And the third seed that would grow in me was be denial, and I would spiral into a state of illusion. Came to the conclusion that gay shit I had no business doing. A man and good grades is the only thing that I should be pursuing, in addition to wearing dresses and curtsy lessons. I found myself at an intersection of exceeding in Black excellence or worrying the rest of my life about acceptance. Not that it would matter, because the denominating factor was that I was a Black girl who would become a Black woman, and adding lesbian would only diminish my value because Black women weren't lesbians. We were caretakers and homemakers, and lesbian was just a category in your father's porn collection. My environment reassured me that these feelings were a phase that was a stepping stone into puberty, a phase that was only meant to satisfy the sexual gratification of men, a phase that was for hypersexual freak girls with daddy issues, a phase that was sinister and would eventually wither as I became a woman. And so I waited for this phase to pass by, but it never passed, and it merely cowered. And now I'm 16 in the midnight hour, and the YouTube search engine reads, 2 girls kissing. Wondering, will I ever get to publicly share that feeling? I've cut down so many trees just to make closets and deposit with wardrobes made of false knowledge, and I wore them well. But how long could I fit this version of myself that I had created and hated and mutated and wanted so bad to go away? And the first seed that wanted to grow in me so desperately was to be brave, but it wouldn't sprout until I weeded all the other seeds out and came to the conclusion that my sexuality wasn't a big deal, and the only ones who were tripping were the motherfuckers who couldn't cop a feel. Who couldn't cop a feel and felt entitled to my identity, and what went into me was at the top of their to-do list. They think I'm clueless. I just got to the surface of the soil in the process of uprooting, realizing we all just stupid, Black conditioned Christians in a colonized system that's taught us how to think. They say that all boys love blue and all girls must love pink, and most people don't even know what a social construct even means. And that immense ignorance we place on the shoulders of our Black queer children, and we kick them out, and then wondering why their seeds don't sprout. And when you sow in so much hate, no one tells you how much digging you have to do to uplift and replace and constantly validate that there's enough room for me and my sexuality to cohabitate. My bravery is blossoming beautifully, and saying it out loud makes my inner child feel better. Makes my gay feel a lot more realer, makes my rainbow shine a bit brighter, and let girls like Deja know that it's hope, that we are the pot that's at the end of the rainbow, and that every piece of us is gold, and that shame is just a child's game taught by cowards who never got to grow. So go, flourish and flirt and be fluid and sapphic and sassy and do whatever makes you happy, because gay is not a gender or abnormality. Being gay is just a piece of who you are that makes up your individuality. Thank you, Morehouse.
Good day, Morehouse. This morning, we are assembled in the Crown Nave for today's Crown Forum, named for one of the most important activists and organizers of the 20th century, Bayard Taylor Rustin was the chief architect of the 1963 March on Washington and an influential guide to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the chapel's namesake and college's most esteemed alumnus. Rustin was a conscientious objector, nonviolent agitator, and an international peace advocate who was an openly gay man. President Barack Obama, when posthumously awarding Rustin the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2013, remarked, "For decades, this great leader, often at Dr. King's side, was denied his rightful place in history because he was openly gay." Throughout Rustin's life, his sexual identity served as a site of struggle and tension. In 1953, after delivering a speech in Pasadena, California, he was arrested for lewd vagrancy. In 1960, when preparing for a march in Los Angeles at the Democratic National Convention, Representative Adam Clayton Powell threatened to lie to the press that Rustin and King were gay lovers if King continued to organize with him. When considering Bayard's life, we are called to ponder the Black queer experience. Bayard, like other ancestors and many of us, was a dandy of the field who sported coats of many colors, who dreamed new worlds into being, a gatekeeper that danced betwixt and between dimensions, one of the righteous among us who continued to trek toward the River Jordan. This morning, Bayard invites us to a thin place, a space in time where we find voice messages from the past, present, and future, where we live and love with women, men, ungendered, unnamed, androgynous, and anonymous people, and where we find our creative communicative capabilities akin to Carver, luxuriate in liberating letter writing like Locke, compose couplets comparable to County, lift up lofty lyricisms like Langston, and magically weave metaphors into word magic as McKay. I hear Bayard's voice penetrating from other realms, saying to us that the Black queer experience is a hermeneutic, a method to read and interpret reality as text, to engage in confrontation, and to decode and decipher as orientations to method. Black queerness, or queerness, defies Western limits of reality, of knowing and being, and uncovers what Audre Lorde reveals, the erotic as power, or the erotic as an episteme, a way to become and to know the self, in which body and desire serve as ways of knowing, to understand gender, sexual, and racial identities. To queer, or to queer, is to engage in decolonial deconstruction and make room for imaginative possibilities, to dissect and analyze the normalizing technologies behind the creation and maintenance of race, class, sex, and gender divisions through purposeful attention to cultural performance, social practice, language, and kinship organization. Queering challenges the location and movement of internalized power and power within our communities, and thereby invites us to subvert those power schemes that systematically disenfranchise minoritized bodies and subjectivities. Queering permits us performative regenderings of the body or bodies in ritual contexts, in which scholar Roberto Strongman describes transcorporeality as the modular aspect of the self that allows the ritual and everyday flourishing of non-heteronormative performance and identification. Finally, the Black queer experience, both aesthetically and poetically, translates discursive and epistemological meanings grounded in cultural rituals and lived experiences while disentangling narratives of normativity, developing and attending to more liberative understandings of human experience and subjectivity rooted in communal knowledge. This type of queering, aims to make meaning about the lives and experiences of African descended people and queer folk, highlighting the multiple, intersecting, and nuanced articulations of selfhood and identity. This is what Bayard calls us to contemplate. Thank you.
If you can't get a decent salary for men who are working in the name of God, how the hell are you going to get rid of poverty? All over the country, people are telling me, you can't depend on the unions. They're anti-Negro. They won't stand with you. Well, I think the record here shows that in Memphis, this fight is going to be won because the black people of this community and the trade unions stand together, man to man.
We call for a nonviolent uprising with people sitting, standing, being arrested, white and black together. Our power is in our ability to make things unworkable. The only weapon we have is our bodies, and we need to tuck them in places so wheels don't turn.
Am I supposed to go back to Harlem and tell the people they have to wait until the Vietnam War is over before money can be got? No, I think we have to put up a political fight for it. I do not believe the war in Vietnam is more important than eradicating poverty, and I think history will reveal that.
What I want to know is, with what politician will you agree in November if they don't get off their fannies and do something?
Our speaker